Okay, we're gonna just get through this. I don't like to be negative during Game of the Year. I like to celebrate the games that came out over the course of the year, but sometimes you can't fucking do that. So you need to concentrate all of the negativity into one little category. Let everyone just get their shit through, get past it, and then get back right back to enjoying the games again with best game of the year. So this is the biggest letdown. This is the evolution of worst game of the year because this is much more apt and we get things that people give way more of a shit about. Um,
Mm.
so I'm gonna start this off, and when I was going through this game, I needed to I sent Ryan a message because I needed a little bit of a sanity check because I wasn't sure if I hated this because I'm in too deep or if this was actually like let down, disappointing, problematic. Um, I have adored most of I should say, half of the Atari Gold Master Series games. So when they announced that they are doing a documentary about Tetris, it's truly hard to believe that you could laser focus a game more directly at me. In playing it, however, the idea that you would use this as like a historical like museum or documentary reference for Tetris is goddamn insulting. Um, if you want to call it like bulletproof software, Atari Gold Master or whatever, that's at least a bit more accurate, but it is profoundly insulting that you would have. Why would you fucking do this if you can't get Game Boy Tetris? What the fucking fuck? Like, what the, why? What? Like,
Those
no
all
Tetris,
bad
like,
Tetrises.
the omission of there's no Tetris Grandmaster in it. There's no like there's so many iconic important Tetris games that are completely gone from it because they weren't bulletproof software games. And
And they
I
talk about
was
it in the videos too. Like they're just like, man, wouldn't these are the most important Tetrises? Anyway, we don't have them, but they're important.
yeah, like
It's just
I didn't know if I was just being crazy because I'm a Tetris psychopath or not, or if like it's actually fucked up that they aren't in this game.
I'm a
Um,
Tetris mediocre enjoyer, and I was pretty annoyed when I looked through the game list and I was like, they're all shitty.
yeah, like again, not even to say that like the game needs to have Tetrasphere in it, but like,
Well,
but it
no, yeah.
should.
but like if you're putting fucking Hatris in twice, like what the fuck?
The people
This is
crave
also my number
Hatris.
three. So um
Like, and the documentary stuff in it is like fine, but like it's all stuff that like it's basically the stuff that gets covered in that fucking Taron Egerton movie. Like it doesn't
well
really
that's
even
for
get
like the first two like chapters, but then there's
yeah.
three more of nothing happening.
Oof.
It's
There's
such a
a
fucking
lot of little
letdown.
points that you have to hit in it that are just like this is my problem with this one especially is you'll watch the documentary, right? And then you move on to a point in the timeline that is a quote from the documentary you just watched. Then you move on to a picture that's a still from the documentary you watched that explains what you saw in the documentary in text. And it's like, how are you getting padding? Like, why are you padding out a timeline?
Like you shouldn't have done this. Like you clearly don't have the material. You don't have the stuff to have done this right. And when you
Mm-hmm.
look at something like Making of Karateka is so fucking perfect. Um, like given I don't really give a shit about Karateka, but like what these games need to be is exactly what that game is. I'm not even gonna say like Atari 50 because it's not like Atari 50 has the complete breadth of fucking Atari's work. But it still does a good enough job hitting all of the main points. And I share this complaint also to agree with the Jeff Minter one they put out this year, but to a much less degree. And at least with the Jeff Minter one, I can look at it and say like, well, it kind of makes sense that those aren't in here because you can actually buy a lot of these games on Steam currently. So even from like a preservation standpoint, it doesn't matter as much, but there are still some glaring omissions. But not like fucking the Tetris one. And I super think that it sucks that someone would like play this and think that like, oh yeah, I'm learning a lot about Tetris when it's like, no, you are barely scratching the surface, motherfucker. Like there's so much more to
Mhm.
this. Ugh. Yeah, that's frustrating to me.
Oh,
Lily,
indeed.
Lily, what do you got?
My number three biggest letdown was Angerfoot.
Yeah, I really
I
wanted to
tend
like
to be a
Angerfoot
Devolver
more.
fangirl. I really like Devolver and most of the stuff that they put out. I wanted to like Angerfoot, but like the controls are just not
Feels
tight enough. They're
bad.
too loose. You can't fucking aim reliably. I could not get it to work in a way that felt good to play. So I just didn't go back to it. And I really wanted to like it because it's Devolver and it looks good. I like the way that it looks. I like the style of it. Like when I did manage to land a hit, it felt good, but it was just so inconsistent that I couldn't do it.
I'm really glad that you're saying this because I just kind of thought I was dog shit at it.
No, no, the controls were not good. Like I could
Okay.
not. I changed the sensitivity. I used a mouse. I used a controller. Like I could not get it to work the way that I wanted it to.
Mhm. Okay, this makes me feel better. This is healing. Jason, what healing do you need to do?
My number three letdown. I don't really have a strong opinion about this one, but it is Nine Souls. Um, I was pretty hyped up by like a group of my other friends who play a bunch of video games, and we talk about
You have
video games
other
all the
friends?
time. They like all
Are you
played
cheating on us?
Nine Souls, and like a bunch of them really liked it. I got it and played like an hour of it, and I just didn't get it. It felt like it wanted to be shitty and hard for the sake of being shitty and hard. Like the parrying sucks, and that's a very integral part of the game, or it felt like it
Disagree.
sucks to me at least. But I just I think the game is I don't know enough about the game to say it's a bad game. I just didn't like it. It could be very good. Um, but it's just it had nothing in it for like a Metroidvania felt fresh in terms of platforming. You just run around and jump. And we gotta fucking stop with the Metroidvanias. We don't need 10 new ones every year. Just put out the good ones. Like studios should have to submit an application and only one new Metroidvania gets approved every year. And this year's
Oh,
would have been
that's
Prince
why
of
Silksong
Persia.
can't come out. It's in the
Yeah,
queue.
Yeah,
Silksong didn't get the
it's in the
grant.
queue.
They did win the lottery, so
But
maybe
yeah,
next year.
I don't really like Metroidvanias that much because I find the main part of them that makes them what they are really frustrating. But the few that I have actually played and gotten into have been really good. Like Metroid Dread, really good. Prince of Persia, really good. I liked Gato Roboto. While it was pretty simple, I thought it was a pretty fun
Yeah,
game.
it's a good one.
But I just as soon as I hear a game as a Metroidvania, it's like automatically kind of gets a knock against it, and I have to really be sold on playing it. And I was on this, and I just didn't get it.
Bummer. At least it's on Game Pass, so it was free.
Yeah.
Connor, do some spiritual healing.
Um, my number three is a DLC came out where for Risk of Rain 2, where this was the first one Gearbox was like solely in charge of. Because like the first DLC for Risky 2 still had like the Risky devs making it and Gearbox was helping out. This one was solely Gearbox and they fucked it up hard. Like, not only was the new character not very fun to play, a lot of the new items sucked. They've somehow fucked up the physics by tying it to the FPS, which was not a problem before this DLC. I want to make that explicitly clear. This was not the case before this DLC came out. And then after it did, it even affected the game if you didn't have the DLC,
Yeah.
to the point where people were making comparison videos of like, this is what happens when you swing as the loader on 30 FPS, 60, 120, and 300. And the higher your FPS, the further and faster you would go, to the point where if you were on like 120 or higher, it was pretty much impossible to play because you would be going too fast to do anything.
They introduced a bug, and again, it has to be said that even if you did not get this DLC, it fucked the main game up. Where it would just delete all of your save and your like Steam cloud save.
Yeah.
So you could just be playing and then lose all your shit.
Sick.
So
Yeah, have to restart from square
you
one.
kind of just can't play that game anymore.
And like they reintroduced the chef, which was like a fan favorite from Risk of Rain 1. They somehow fucked it up so bad he was so boring to play, to the point where they even, I think most of the bugs have been fixed by now, but they came out with a roadmap of fixing the DLC, which I had never seen before.
Yep.
And with one of the things being retooling Chef's entire kit.
Oh
Yeah,
God.
it's pathetic.
And it's like you just fucking leave it to Gearbox to fuck something up that badly.
That's an all-time blunder. Oof. Danny. Vent.
Yeah. So my number 3 biggest letdown. I've been getting into very like wholesome girly games lately. And so I
Ouch.
went ahead and bought Princess Peach Showtime. And it's just like it's just a game or it's baby's first video game, really. Like it's simpler than Yoshi's Crafted World. Like it holds your hand more. I I guess I should have known what I was getting into, but it was just it was not fun to play.
I remember where I was when Lily said that you bought that, and I had to do like a double take. Like, wait, what? Like she did what? She bought that? Okay, yeah, whatever.
Anytime I think of that Peach game, I'm reminded of that image where it's like a picture from a GameStop where it's like a standee that says games for girls, and it's like pets and Barbie games, and then in the very corner there's Metal Gear Solid 3.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
Danny, they do a pun with like sparkle in that sparkle something sparkle.
I don't
Nah, never
recall.
mind. It doesn't matter enough.
Games need to be required, especially Nintendo, to like announce with the game that it's going to be baby's first video game. Because Yoshi's Crafted World is a great example of that. That game was so
Yeah.
lame.
Like I hate to gripe about
I'm mad I
an
bought it.
older game, but yeah, no, like I compare Peach to Yoshi's Crafted World, except it's simpler. There is less
Mind blowing.
challenge to it than Crafted World. I didn't think they could do it, but they did it.
Yeah, I'm gonna, as we wrap back around, I want to continue the Nintendo hate train a bit. I think it's fucked up, and I realize that like this is not a new complaint to 2024. But I think it's extremely fucked up that Nintendo is kind of just allowed to get away with some of the shit that they get away with because it's fucking Nintendo. And you piggies will buy it anyway. And don't get me wrong, I will buy it anyway. Like I am part of the problem. But when I see, I think about things where like, like the release of Cyberpunk or like a lot of these other like AAA releases where they just release in a completely fucked state and the, developers and publishers, whoever, like they get a public lynching about it. Like it's nuts. They get dragged in review scores, everything. Like people figure that shit out really quick. But not what Nintendo does. When Nintendo releases a Pokemon game, like, no, it's fine, whatever. Like 80s on Metacritic, whatever. There's no problem with it because Nintendo can do no wrong. Releasing Echoes of Wisdom is unacceptable in that state. Like that is not fucking acceptable that you can release a game like that. Um, I I think it sucks so bad and it hurts my heart so much because like when that game is wanting to be performant the way it's supposed to be, it seems super fun and like super cool and like it's a cool fundamental idea. It's a fucking like basically a mainline Zelda game. That shouldn't be fucking okay. And I know at first, like when it was happening, like whatever, Jason wasn't having any problems with it, so I kind of did feel like I was a little bit crazy. But then Lily like borrowed it from me and I think returned it 2 days later
It was very
because she's just like,
quick.
this is not playable. Like this is unacceptable that they would put this shit out.
I
Like
couldn't do it.
I tried it on TV. I tried it on like just on the Switch. I tried it on the light. I tried it like all of these different places, and it just doesn't perform. And like I dug into them for the same fucking thing about Bayonetta 3 when it came out. Like it's not fucking okay, and it makes me so angry that they can just do this. And especially when I thought this game looked really, really fucking cool. And, you know, maybe when they release the fucking Switch 2, it's going to get a frame rate bump and like actually run at an even. Because I'm not even saying this game has to like run at 60 frames a second, 1080p or anything like that. I'm saying I need the game to not be completely uneven. When I go to pick up one of the items to put down, I need the entire game to not completely grind to a halt and then pick back up. Like, not fucking okay. This is bullshit. It's super frustrating to me, and especially because I think that game, if you sort that out, will be fun. Uh, but I can't deal with that shit. It's not okay.
And for that reason, Dash's number 2 is Neva.
No, Neva's disappointing, but it's not like that. It's not a visceral reaction. Ryan, hit me with some stuff. Bring in the negativity.
Yeah. So this is let down twofold. Game itself, pretty fucking bad. But I also let myself down because I got tricked into kind of being excited for a Souls-like. It's absolutely on me. But another Crab's Treasure fucking sucks.
Mhm.
I didn't even beat the first boss. I tried the first boss a couple of times and it was bullshit, stupid hard. It just nothing in it was interesting enough to keep playing, to even like, I don't know. It was really bad.
Just turn on the mode where you have a gun for a shell.
Yeah.
See, and I don't want to have to do that. It's another Souls-like taking the wrong lessons from like why people like Souls games.
Only one studio can fucking do it right. It's crazy.
And
It's
yeah,
the
it's
guys
just
who made
it's
Lords of
another
the
one of
Fallen.
those. It's
another
another
Crab's
Lords of the
Treasure.
Fallen. It's another whatever you want to call it.
Lies of
Any
P is the
Souls-like.
closest one, and even that it doesn't have the sauce.
Yeah,
Yeah.
terrible.
Oh, I'm sorry that you made that mistake. We will make it again.
Yep.
When
Yep.
another Crab's Treasure 2 comes out.
Another Crab's Treasure.
It's in italics.
A
Yeah,
third
exactly.
Crab's Treasure.
Lily, what you got for me?
My number 2 is Penny's Big Breakaway.
Ah, yes. Thank you for someone else bringing it up.
I heard it did the Sonic thing, and it just it doesn't. It's
Yeah.
slow as fuck to play. Like I don't know. It was too floaty. It was just too slow. The platforming wasn't fun. I don't like the fucking yo-yos. It just I don't know. It
really
didn't
wanted to like
deliver
it.
in any way that I wanted it to.
I tried so hard to fucking get into it, and it just every time I'm playing, it's like this doesn't
have the
it.
sauce.
But then when you fucking like boot up like playing Bakaru was like really kind of invigorating
Yeah.
to me because like I did kind of think like maybe it's me, but it's like no, playing like another just kind of fun 3D action platformer. Nah, it's Penny. Penny doesn't have the sauce.
Yeah, Penny just doesn't do it.
It's a bummer. That game seems so cool. Jason hit me with some disappointment.
My number two is a game I do not think is a bad game, but it's Peglin.
Ah,
It just
Yeah.
doesn't have that one more run factor that type of game is
It doesn't have
supposed
the
to have.
sauce.
Yeah.
Very
Like,
Yeah.
dry year.
I'll still play it because I have it. It's on the Steam Deck. Like I'll boot it up again. It's like a okay travel game, and it's probably my favorite game of my 3 letdown games. But I feel like I should have loved it and I didn't. I love Peggle, and like I really liked what I've played of Slay the Spire, and it's those 2 games mashed together. But I feel like it did the Slay the Spire stuff worse than Slay the Spire, and the Peggle stuff didn't feel like the Peggle part was important.
Yeah.
Like it didn't feel like there was any real strategy of where to shoot the balls. Like in Peggle, like I'm trying to hit a good angle to like get the right little string, and it just didn't feel like it had that. The power-ups just felt kind of like confusing enough to understand based on their description that I didn't want to learn the terminology of the game to adequately strategize my decision making. Like it's a lot of little things combined together that just didn't work for me. And it felt like it had more instances of like you'll have a great Balatro run and there'll just be a boss blind that there's no way you're going to beat it. And it felt like that happened too often, even in like early rounds in Peglin, where it's just like, oh, that guy has 3 bajillion health, and I don't have the peg balls to even get anywhere close to getting through him. I know I'm not gonna pass this level, so I'm just gonna not even try. And I felt like that happened. That shouldn't be happening in like what would be the equivalent of like ante number 2 or 3 in Balatro.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's what's happening in like the first or early in the second like world of a Peglin run. Like I'll give it more shots. I really have only given it a couple hours, but that type of game is supposed to make me finish a run and like know I need to go to bed, but force like do another run against
Yeah.
my better judgment anyway. And it
Like
doesn't do
Balatro
that
does.
it doesn't do that at all.
Yeah.
Like I finish a run and I'm just like, I feel nothing, and I'm not gonna play this again for 3 weeks.
Yeah, I hopped out in the middle of runs and felt nothing. Like
It's a good
it's not a
sign.
good Peggle game. It's not a good roguelike. It doesn't do either the things it wants to
Yeah.
do very well. Where I'd rather just play Peggle, or
Yeah. No,
I don't know if I'd rather play a roguelike, but I'd rather just boot up Peggle.
I played Peglin for like an hour or so when I first downloaded it, and then I turned it off and went and just bought Peggle and Peggle Knights on the Steam Deck and played through those instead.
I beat Peglin on my 3rd run during a layover in Denver and felt nothing.
Mhm.
Like just like, yeah, okay.
That was a game.
That was a game.
Yeah, it kind of felt like a Flash game that someone kind of shitted out.
Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit.
And it was in early access for like a year, so like
Yeah.
whatever. Yeah.
Just like make there be less power-ups and just give
Just
them
make Peggle.
normal names and better descriptions and make them like easy to read, because it's also not an easy to read game. Again, I've only played it on the Steam Deck, so it's a small screen, but like I haven't had any trouble playing anything else on it.
Mhm.
And I felt like I was like, kind of struggling to read what I'm supposed to be reading, to learn the dumb terminology for the different power-ups. I don't know. I'm still gonna try it a little bit, but I don't see myself playing it a lot.
Hunter, Vent.
My number 2 is the last boss of Shadow of the Erdtree, because I feel like it was really fucking stupid to just be Radon again. Because they could have
Whoa,
done.
spoilers.
Yes,
Wow.
sorry. Sorry to Ryan who dropped it at Rolana. Like I feel like they could have done something cool with like Mikola or Godwin or some other like
Yeah.
underused character that was supposed to be super important to the lore, but then it's just, hey, here's Radon again.
Yeah,
But now
I mean,
his
it's 'cause
second phase makes it impossible to see anything.
Yeah, it's because Radon was like one of the most popular fights of the base game, and they're just like, yeah, let's poop that guy out on the screen again.
Well, yeah, but that's
Mhm.
because the Radon fight was cool.
I mean, it makes
Yeah.
sense like lore wise why it's Radon,
Yeah.
but I completely agree. I would have
And
preferred it to
I
just be
haven't
like
even
Mikola or
beaten him.
something.
Like I got to him tried like 5 times, and I'm like, nah, I beat the game.
Well, like,
I got to
Mm.
the final boss. I've seen everything other than the end of this fight.
even from like the lore thing, it's like, well, that just makes other events that happened just dumb now. Because like, if Radon
First time in the
promised,
Souls DLC.
if actually yes, I never played any of the previous.
Oh
ones.
yeah. Oh. Wait, you never played Old Hunters?
Nope.
Nah, he's all about new
Damn.
hunters.
Old Hunters is really good.
That's what I've heard. But yeah, it's just like apparently Radon promised Mikola to be his consort, and that's why him and Millennia fought for some reason. Because
Ethan.
they both promised to serve the same person. That's why they had to fight each other.
Yeah, but who's bottom bitch? That's what they're fighting about.
Well, apparently Millennia.
Yeah.
But it's just like, well, what? And they're like, oh, it's actually Radon and Soul in Moog's body, and like the only way they reference that is like him having one Moog attack, and it's like, well, that's why not do something cooler with that? Like it's literally just Radon. You don't even make it look like it's Moog in Radon's armor or something, where like visually it could be really cool, but it's just, I don't know, it's just disappointing. And plus, like, they increase his health way too much, so you can't even summon Ansbach and Thialier to make it like a cool fight, kind of like Radon's base game fight. But like, I don't know, just it sucked.
Danny, bring the mood even lower.
Yeah. Let's talk about Rivals of Aether 2.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ryan, for the copy of Rivals of Aether 2 added into the pool.
Yeah, no problem. I've got words about it too, but I wouldn't say it was a letdown because I had no expectations for it.
Is that one of those Smash games?
I
Let me
mean,
bring up the list.
Yeah, it's
Okay,
It's number 50 out of 56. I looked it up.
it's number 49 out of 56.
No. Oh, you're right.
Damn.
Fuck.
Get counted.
But yeah, no, like,
UFC
it's-
Undisputed 2009 is better than this game.
Yeah. No, like a lot of Pro Smash players were like talking about this game coming out and maybe dethroning Smash as like the best platform fighter, and it really isn't. The like I preferred the first Rivals of Aether. It's and I don't particularly like that as a platform fighter. It's like I felt like it lost between Rivals of Aether 1 and 2, it lost visual appeal.
Oh yeah,
think-
I hate the
yeah.
visuals.
Yeah, I
Ugly
think
game.
the like pixel art of Rivals of Aether 1 was so much better, and like it felt crisper to play Rivals of Aether 1. The controls of 2 felt bad. Like it was just, I don't know, looking for a new platform fighter to play and having a lot of people hyping Rivals of Aether 2, and they're like playing it at tournaments, and it's just not good. Yeah.
No sauce.
So I got that game because a coworker of mine said, if you buy this and play it for 2 hours, I'll just pay for it for you.
Mm.
I couldn't even bring myself to play it for 2 hours.
Oof.
I mean, you guys have played Smash with me. I don't like Smash as competitive platform fighter thing. I like Smash as a party game. I want the assist trophies. I want the items. I want crazy shit happening. Give me stages that are doing interesting stuff. And this is literally everything I hate from Smash, or like ways to play Smash, condensed into a game. So it's like it had everything against it with me going into it. And it was still worse than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
So we did Rivals 1 also, and it ranks at number 41 on our list. So it does rank higher than Rivals 2. But like one of the things about Rivals 1 that was like neat was like it even had like this custom character feature where like people could upload characters to the Steam Workshop. And like that at least made it like kind of stupid. Like there was
Because we
one
played
of
as
the
Fridge and
yeah,
Egg
like no,
Dog.
yeah, you could play as Pride Fridge. You could play as Egg Dog. You could play as Sans Undertale. Like dumb shit that it's like it at least made it kind of like entertaining. And Rivals just like it has that air of taking itself too seriously and disgusting.
You can tell
Vile game.
Rivals 1 is better because it has Shovel Knight.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And Ori.
And Ori, yeah.
Ugh.
Ugh, indeed.
All right, Dash, bring the vibe even lower.
Okay.
Time for the big lowest vibe of the evening.
So I think it's kind of atrocious what like Nintendo did with you know, Echoes of Wisdom, all of that. You know, that like that super sucks. That I'm not happy about that. But I think that it could suck even worse if like during the course of the game it starts parading out the corpses of all of these like really beloved things that help make the Nintendo brand what it is for their 30th anniversary. Like all these really cool games. And then like you can also have a segment where it's doing a throwback to one of those games that they fucking shuttered the studio of and like have explicitly said we're never doing anything new with that. Like like Astrobot does.
Yeah, okay.
Like oh, we're doing an Ape Escape level. Isn't Ape Escape cool? Remember Ape Escape, guys? Remember how we fucking shut that studio the fuck down last year? Like, remember how we fired all of the people who were associated with that game? Remember how we're never gonna make another fucking one of those again? Oh, here we've got all these like nice little like reference spots to these games that we're never gonna fucking make another one of ever again because we have to make more fucking sad dad games. Remember all these cool things? Remember all these great like IPs and
Remember
franchises that
Bloodborne?
we have access to that you can go fuck yourself if you ever want a new Loco Roco? Like, how about go fuck yourself? Like, did you consider that? You, the player, the Sony fan? How about you go fuck yourself? Because we are never going to do anything with these IPs. But we will parade them out and it's like, oh, like look, let them dance around the PlayStation 5 like you. Hey, remember Guilty Gear? Remember Killzone? Remember Toomba? Remember all of these other fucking things that built this brand? Go fuck yourself. No. No, we're gonna make fucking sad dad games. Take the fucking new Naughty Dog game. Fucking look at your goddamn Porsche spaceship. Fuck you. Like, I loved that Astrobot pack-in game because it felt like a good send up, like focusing on the hardware and doing all of those other little things. But like this one is leaning so hard into that nostalgia element that Sony actively has been destroying for like the last 5 years. It makes me sad to see that stuff in this Astrobot. Sure, it's like a competently made platformer. Like the game itself is like fine. I don't necessarily have any complaints about like the minute to minute gameplay of Astrobot. It's a in fact, I'm gonna say it's a good 3D platformer. Not one of like the best. I think it's from a raw platforming perspective, I think it's the worst of the three Astrobot games. But like it's totally fine. But just like Sony attempting to have their fucking cake and eat it too with this bullshit, it makes me sad. Like why would you do that Ape Escape thing? Like when they do God of War or like the Horizon segments, like whatever, I get that. Like those are their hot IPs right now. That makes sense to me. But like, why'd you do that Ape Escape level, man? Like
Remember
you
when
know
we
you're
used to
never
make
going to
good
like
games?
you're
No.
never gonna fucking do another Ape Escape. Like you know you're never gonna make another Loco Roco. I don't know. It makes me sad to just like look at this extensive like list of things that Sony could be doing and then looking at their modern output, which is the prestige TV bullshit. And if you're into that, then cool, but those aren't the games that built PlayStation and makes me think fondly back on my history playing PlayStation for the last 30 years. Like it just makes me sad. And I think that super duper sucks. Um I I don't think I can think of like another equivalent or like something that like Nintendo did that's like that. Because even like when Nintendo does Smash, you know, brings in all the shit, it's like they do stuff with these. Like these are actually like IP that they care about and they do stuff with, and they do like the little like assist trophies, like callbacks for some of the deeper cuts. Like I don't mind the game necessarily having deeper cuts, but again, you closed Japan Studio last year. Like you fucking closed Sony Japan Studio. Like what the fuck? I'm
I think it was
pissed about it.
fun.
It's a fine platformer.
It's GOTY 2024 according to the Jeffies.
It's a fine platformer. Just fucking
I get
Sony
having
sucking themselves
complaints
off
about it.
so much. Like
I also I get having complaints about it. I think it's a pretty fun game and I think it does a lot of things well, but I think it's crazy how much they're painting themselves into a corner by like they're like making Astrobot their like mascot, like their current generation mascot appears to be like what they want to be their mascot for the future. But I didn't play the VR game, but I played the pack-in game and I played this one a lot. And obviously the main thing that they are centering around is PlayStation nostalgia. And I feel like they blew almost all of their load on that already. And I don't know how they could possibly plan to like make an Astrobot every like generation, because like I feel like that seems to be the intent. They're gonna make a full length Astrobot every generation. But like how can they, I don't know what they can do if they lose the theme of this game is talking about PlayStation. Like
yeah.
you can't have us build a PlayStation 6, build a PlayStation 7, build a PlayStation 8 and just continue to reference the same old games because they don't produce enough first party stuff each generation to be able to like reference it like all their PlayStation 5 exclusives on the PS6. What's it going to be like 9 Spider-Man worlds and like
And
a Returnal world?
that and like to your point, like the VR game doesn't have any of that Sony reference in it. It's just like that. Like that is completely devoid of that. Or if they wanted to make Astrobot like, hey, it's going to be this pack-in thing where we're going to show you the new features of the console, just like a
Yeah.
free 1 or 2 hour thing. I think that's totally a fine realm to be in.
And
Or
I still have like it is still one of my favorite games of the year. I get the complaints to an extent. I think some people are a little up their own butt about their complaints, but then none of the complaints I've heard like that are what you specifically complained about.
yeah,
But so like
it,
that, those all seemed a lot more valid. I do think, I mean, I haven't played nearly as many platformers, but I think it does a lot of stuff really well. I think it's a pretty unique, it has a lot of unique things in it.
the platforming levels in Astrobot feel like, compared to like the VR one, which is again a much more straightforward, just like platformer,
Mhm.
it feels like that Mario 3D Land to Mario 3D World jump, where like looking
Mhm.
back at the VR one, like it feels so, it kind of looks so simple by comparison to like how elaborate they get with the levels
Yeah.
in the new one. And again, I think it's a totally well-made platform. It is a fun platform. Like that that is tight, that feels good. I wouldn't call it game of the year or anything, but I think that's maybe a
I
bit
was
much.
pretty surprised. I was pretty surprised that the Jeffies gave it to.
But it's a good 3D platformer. Like
Yeah.
it is as good as some 3D Marios. Like
Yeah.
it's a good 3D platformer.
I think it's significantly better than Mario Sunshine.
And I think that the platforming, like the levels in it, are better than the pack-in game. Like I I again, my complaints don't necessarily center around the gameplay. It's Sony.
Hmm.
Ugh.
Don't worry, Dash. They'll make a new Ape Escape when they can figure out how to make it into a sad dad game.
The worst thing about it, the Ape Escape level's really fun.
Yeah.
Like they made a really good Ape Escape level.
Mm.
Like the Loco Roco level's really fun.
I think all of the specific the like final levels like that in every world are really good.
What was the fifth one?
I think the fucking Uncharted one I think is really fun.
Oh yeah, it's
The
Uncharted, it's
The
God of
God of War
War,
one is really good.
Horizon, Ape Escape, and Loco Roco.
The
That's what it
Horizon
is.
one I think is the weakest of the 5 if I had to pick one, but I think it still does some stuff well.
Yeah.
I also just don't like Horizon.
I
Yeah.
can't name a
Industry
See,
single
blame
person
they
that
already blew their
does.
load on Horizon.
Well, you mean you're not getting Lego Horizon for the Nintendo Switch?
I've heard that's
Well, they
even
can't.
worse than the regular Horizon games.
Okay, the grievances have been aired. Ryan,
Yes,
let's
mine
go.
will be significantly less impassioned. Um, uh, but in the same vein as Tetris Forever, I actually thought Llamasoft was more of a letdown. Um, I think it did a really good job of building up Jeff Minter as, really cool stuff. He's making really cool games. But then the game stops right at the point that like his first real big, real interesting game comes out, and then it's kind of just then it ends on a video of like, well, here's all the actual interesting stuff he made. Anyway, later, so they spend a lot of time having videos of like, well, we didn't include this. No, we didn't include this. No, we didn't include this. But don't worry, we included 12 different copies of Camels in Space
Grid Runner.
and Grid Runner. So I don't know. Tempest was in there. I really like Tempest, but that was really kind of the only thing I played. And Color Space. But every time they'd be like, okay, we've got the first two kind of iterations of this thing, and then the best version we actually don't have on here. And I know a lot of them you can buy separately, but I think it's weird. I feel at this point they're old enough that you could, it's a package thing. Just include them. Try to include them. Something.
It bugs me from like more of and like a historical documentary perspective where this Atari Gold Master series conveniently leaves out the massive lawsuit and schism he had with Atari that Atari looks super bad in.
Just a
Crazy how that
coincidence.
entire arc is omitted when it's like arguably his most defining like historical information.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't worry about
So
it.
it just felt like a lot of stuff was left out, specifically like the back half of his career. When I think he's doing a lot of like really interesting stuff now, and he has been since the Jaguar. They stopped talking about him at the Jaguar.
Polybius, one of the best VR games.
Yep.
Yeah. I'm also let down. I mean, given I've got more skin in the game for Tetris, but
Right.
I do agree with where you're coming from. Lily, bring it on.
My number one biggest letdown was Zelda and the Wand of Beds, or whatever it's called. I I wanted to like it. I bugged Dash for months to finish it so I could borrow it, and then I had it for less than a week because I could not handle how often and how badly the frames were just dropping. It was crazy, and I could not handle it. I couldn't do it.
Don't worry,
Even
just
at
buy the
the
Switch 2, maybe.
yeah, we'll see, I guess. But
Please understand.
that was my biggest letdown, far and away, I would say, because I was really looking forward to it more so than Angerfoot or Pennies. And then it just did the exact opposite of hitting the way I wanted it to.
At least the Switch Lite looks nice independent of the game. Jason, what you got?
My number one is Angerfoot. I I was pretty hyped when this was announced. I thought it looked really good. Devolver puts out fun, goofy stuff. I just thought it looked like a really fun game of that genre. Um, I even think it was going to be in my top three most anticipated if I had done Game of the Year last year. It was one of the few things for 2024 that I like. Remember when it got announced at whatever, like, I don't know, not E3 thing it was announced at. Um, but yeah, it's just fine. I think it's fun. I haven't had any control. Like it plays fine. Like I'm able to play it and get through levels. I think it's kind of fun, but it's just really, really shallow. It's dumb and not like a not fun way. Like the dialogue all appears to be completely irrelevant and is bad. You can because you can just like kill every NPC you run into, as far as I've noticed, with no repercussions. Um, Shit City's funny, I guess. Um, but yeah, I wasn't even gonna play it because when it came out, I played the demo before it came out, and it was like that's fine. It's not very fun. And I wasn't gonna play it at all, but I grabbed it on sale a couple weeks ago because I think it was down to like $10. I'll probably keep playing it. It's a fine time killer, like on a flight, but if something I already exhausted myself of like Balatro or replaying Ape Out. But I think it's just fine, but it was my biggest disappointment because I was really looking forward to it. And
I
it's just meh.
I feel like if it were tighter, it could have been almost like a first person Hotline Miami,
Right, yeah.
just with like really satisfying hits and good knockback and hitting people into walls and doors and all
Yeah.
of that, but they
I'm so
just
fucking
didn't
happy
get
that I'm not
there.
crazy.
Well, and it's like Ape Out is one of my favorite like games to have on hand on a mobile device, like
Sure.
on my Switch or on the Steam Deck. And I mean, it's kind of in that same genre. I've played Ape Out way more than I've played Hotline Miami, but they're both really good. And yeah,
Yeah.
when this one got announced, I was like, oh, it's a not top-down version. It's a first person and you run around and kick people. That's funny and it looks
Yeah.
fun. And it's fine.
They
It's at
missed.
best, it's fine.
8 out of 10, it's okay.
And it doesn't have a good soundtrack, which is the really one of the
Critical.
really big things about both of those games. Like Ape Out's one of my favorite things to listen to while playing, and then Hotline Miami just has really good soundtrack.
Hunter, what you got?
My number one, I don't know if anyone else here played these games, but there was like a VN kind of dating sim thing that came out a
Nope.
couple years ago called Sucker for Love, where you're just some dude and you're like, I really want to just kiss an eldritch babe. And so you just find like a Necronomicon and you summon Cthulhu and you'd have to do like a bunch of rituals and stuff in order to get a kiss from her. And then there's like two more, like one's the King of Yellow and the other one's like Narlahotep or whatever. And it's just like a pretty simple little dating sim thing where pretty funny writing and stuff like that. There's a sequel that came out called Sucker for Love Date to Die For that came out this year, and it just wasn't as good. Like objectively, it was more like expansive. There's definitely more ambitious with what they were doing because in the first one you were limited to like your apartment, your bathroom, and like the balcony or the entrance or whatever, where this one has like an entire house you have to explore through to do certain things. There's like multiple endings to the game that based on what you do in it. It's like objectively it is a more game game. I I don't know how else to put it, but it just the writing's not as good and I feel like it's less focused because there's like the new exploration and like there'll be points where it's like you have to go to this spot in the house and chant this thing, but you can't look out any windows on the way there, otherwise you instantly die, or like you have to make it
Just like real life.
you have to make it to this room without encountering anyone else in the house or they'll murder you and stuff. And it's like it's clearly a better game design wise and whatnot. It just didn't
That
hit.
ain't what you wanted.
There's no sauce. It's such a dry year.
Next
At least with these.
next year we're adding
these
most sauceless category because it is distinctly different than biggest letdown. Okay, Danny, match my freak. Get angry. Give me something.
I mean, it makes me sad. I'm a Tekken girly.
Oh yeah,
have-
baby.
Yeah, I have always loved Tekken games. In our ranking of fighting games, Tekken 7 came out a few years ago, and it is number 7. Tekken 8 came out this year,
We can
and is
never move it.
number 27. It is just such a drastic downgrade. and like it looks crisp, it moves well, like there are still fun characters, but like God, they put Eddie Gordo behind DLC. You have to buy Eddie Gordo,
Fucked
and
up.
God, they fucked up with that one. Like, he's classic character that just like, no, you can't play him, you can't unlock him, nothing. Yeah, no. And they made all of the rounds. One thing that is fairly consistent that we found in ranking fighting games is that if a round in a fighting game goes on for too fucking long, that's gonna kill the vibe. And you can use your super with like a whole cinematic in every fucking round of every match
And it's
of
first to 3
Tekken 8.
wins.
It's first to
Mm.
3 wins. There's 2 cinematic moves
There's
per
2 different
character.
ones.
Yeah. So the whole thing just gets stretched out astronomically. It's just like it takes for fucking ever. And like uh the roster feels pared down in a way that feels bad. You don't have uh there's just characters that are missing. There are some new characters that are fine and good. I like Reina. She almost made top 3 characters of the year, but God, the that game just doesn't doesn't have the sauce that other Tekken games have.
Pizza and I were in the arena watching Tekken 8 Grand Finals at Evo, and we got up and left because we were bored.
Yeah, it's not fun to watch. Like it's not.
There's nothing. It's just nothing.
It feels fine to play. It as someone who likes watching fighting games, likes watching the pros. I don't watch Tekken 8.
It's so boring. It's all just the cinematic moves every fucking round. Okay.
Love watching a movie in the middle of my action game.
Yep.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's going to bring us to a close for most disappointing. Thank you for this negativity cleanse. I've been holding in that Astrobot shit for months. I am glad to finally get it out. So please join us next time for the best games of the year. Complete turnaround.